So you're trying to learn Marty Friedman's legendary Tornado of Soul solo, but those fast arpeggios are kicking your ass a little bit? Well, try practicing this instead. It's got all the same essential techniques that you're gonna need, but it's a little bit more approachable. Check it out. Hey there kids, it's your good buddy and fellow Friedmaniac, Uncle Ben. You guys are always asking me for more Friedman content here on my channel, and I love breaking that stuff down. I got a request from one of you guys recently down there in the comments section asking for an etude based around the Tornado of Souls arpeggios, which are ferociously fast, feature some really big stretches, and are kind of unapproachable. I came up with this etude in the key of D minor based around a familiar Megadeth chord progression that uses the same basic technique and pattern, but it's just a little bit more approachable. If you work your way through this, it's going to arm you with everything that you need to tackle the real thing in no time. On today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to play it, then give you the technical tips that you're going to need to get it up to speed. As always, this video is brought to you guys by everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. People are saying it's the coolest place on the entire internet, and I'm agreeing with them. This week, everybody who supports my channel, even for just $1 a month, is going to get access to a ton of good stuff to go along with this lesson, like guitar profiles, practice tracks, tabs, and so much more. So don't delay, sign up today. Gear-wise for today's video, I'm going to be playing my beloved Ibanez Jem77-FP, which looks like it was made out of your granny's kimono, and I'm playing through the Fractal Audio Axr FX 3. Yeah, let's hear those smoking hot arpeggios at stepdad speed. So this is all going to be using the exact same approach that you would for the Tornado of Souls arpeggios, same picking pattern, same phrasing idea, and it's based around a progression that follows D minor, B flat major, G7, and C major. You might recognize this from another Megadeth classic. And we're going to be playing arpeggios that follow that chord progression on the top two strings of the guitar, starting off here with this D minor. So we're going to be using the notes D, F, and A. Now the pattern that we're going to do here is going to start off with a pull-off every single time. This is essential to making this whole thing work. So do an upstroke and a pull-off like this. After that, you're going to have a 2 downstroke sweep. So there we go. After this, we're going to do what I think of as a double pull-off. Notice that I picked that top note both times. Then do another double pull-off. And that's the first half of the pattern. So it's like single, double, double. After this, we're going to play 4 singles. And we're going to be doing that with every arpeggio through this whole sequence. Single, double, double, single, 2, 3, 4. Talk about the picking and muting and stuff after I show you guys how to play the arpeggios. After this, it's going to be a B flat. All you got to do is to take the A note and move it up 1 fret to B flat. So now you have this pattern. After that, it's going to be our G7. We're going to be playing the F, D, and B notes out of that arpeggio. So once again, the B string note here is just moving up another fret, and the top two notes on the high E are staying the same. Same pattern. And after this, we're going to be on C. So we need to move up here, so we got the notes C, E, and G. Same idea. That's the first half of the Etude. Let's check it out again. After this is going to be those same arpeggios, but in different inversions. Let's start off here with the D minor in this position. D, F, and A. After this we go to B flat. Now if you'll remember when we were down here, all we had to do to go from D minor to B flat was to move the A note up to B flat. D minor. This is going to be the same idea. Here's D minor. Just move the A note up a half step to B flat, and now you got your B flat arpeggio. And if you recall, after that we move the B flat to B to get our G7 sound. This is going to give us B, F, and D again. And then after this, we're going to finish it out with the C major arpeggio, C, E, and G. Or sorry, C, G, and E. You know what I meant. And after that, I capped it off with a juicy whole step bend from C to D. So all together, we're going to have those arpeggios in two different inversions starting down here. Now let's talk about some of the technical stuff that you're going to need to get this to tornado speed. So the picking pattern that you're doing here is very specific and very Marty, and I recommend following it to a T. So I was going to start off with an upstroke and a pull off, and then do 2 consecutive downstrokes on the next 2 strings. So we're not doing full sweeps here, it's just down to down economy picking, or short sweeps as I like to call them. Whenever you do this, I want you to think about your pick as being oriented like a paintbrush. Imagine you're painting a wall and the only way you're moving the brush was down the wall, right? You would probably angle the paintbrush like this, that way it glides smoothly down the wall. Now that would feel awful if you're trying to make that go up the wall, but we're not doing that at all, so who cares? Just make sure that your pick can fluidly move from down to down by angling it accordingly, like what I'm talking about. Your upstrokes will kind of flick out and get above the B string, and those 2 consecutive downstrokes should feel nice and smooth. If it feels really stiff going from string to string, probably means your pick is too flat or upwards angled like that. Try to really paintbrush that thing and get it flowing over those 2 strings smooth as butter. I'm going to say like 95% of the time, whenever somebody tells me they can't get those arpeggios from Tornado of Souls down, it's because they're not following Marty's picking. I remember back whenever I did that full breakdown on the solo, way back on Weekend Wake Shop 200, I really agonized over trying to get this thing to sound exactly like Marty's, technique-wise and everything. And I remember when I was learning it initially, I had such a hard time with those arpeggios because I was doing them with my techniques instead of his. It looked more like this. You can see as I played that I wasn't doing the down to down economy picking thing. I was playing it with all outside changes, going from a downstroke on the B to an upstroke on the high E every time. From my experience, that feels really good at like low to mid tempos. It's got a great groove to it and the accents are in good spots. But I just remember hitting a speed limit with it with Tornado Souls. I could never get it up to Marty's speed. And I was about to give up, and then I just started trying to attack it like he does. This made a huge difference because after I got control of that down to down economy picking thing, you can go through those strings insanely fast, and it's really just up to the left hand to keep up with it. So I recommend following Marty's picking here. You don't have to follow Marty's flipper hand position. In fact, I've heard him warn against using that, and he said that if he could start over again, he wouldn't learn to play guitar like this. But there is a reasoning behind that, and it has to do with drowning out unwanted noise. Here's another thing about this. As you get this up to speed, it's really a battle of noise, because as you're playing fast and furious, those low strings that you're not using have a tendency to ring out and start talking at you, especially with a bunch of distortion on your tone, and it just drowns out what you're playing and it sounds terrible, right? There's two different ways to combat that. I'm doing it the more conventional way, where I'm using the side of my picking hand palm and I'm putting that right over the middle of the bridge pickup. It's not super far forward, it's not back here on the bridge. I'm on the strings above the bridge pickup. I'm keeping those strings just really mashed down and muted, and they won't make any sound as I'm playing on the top two strings. I'm also using a little bit of skin right there at the top of my palm, right underneath the base of my little finger, to slightly mute out that B string. Here's a little palm muting on there. I like how articulate it sounds, and more importantly, it keeps that note from sustaining. It's really easy to make this note bleed into this note whenever you're doing that finger roll, and by palm muting it, you kind of naturally kill off any sustain that note has. So it makes it harder to bleed into the high E string. And again, I can still maintain that downward pick slanting kind of angle while doing the palm muting. Sometimes when I see people do this stuff, they get really exaggerated with it and their palm really comes away from the string. Like that right there, you don't have to do it that way. See, I'm really mashing on the strings back here, keeping that palm in place. Now, Marty's approach couldn't be more different than that, because he's doing no muting at all. He can't mute. His palm is like under the strings, like this right here. There's no way he can palm mute the strings. He plays with that position right there, and his entire strategy is just to play hard as fuck and drown the noise out. He's producing noise the entire time, but he just knows as long as he plays super hard, it's going to be louder than the noise of those bottom strings talking at him. No noise at all, right? That's just because I was playing harder and louder than the bass level noise floor. It works for Marty. It's not really my thing. If you're gonna commit to that technique, then just keep in mind you got to play loud. And as soon as you're done playing notes, wrap those strings up and mute them. You'll see Marty do this move all the time. Whenever he's done playing notes, he mutes out all the crap that's been generated on the bottom with that picking hand. So keep all that stuff in mind. So for the left hand, the hardest thing is definitely going to be making those position shifts work out, especially going from the G7 to the C. Or the high position. Now, what I recommend doing here is keeping your eyes and your focus on your little finger. For all these arpeggio shapes, the little finger is always the one that starts it, right? That's the guy that always touches down first. So be sure to give him all the attention in the world whenever you're making those position shifts happen. I point this out because a lot of us have a tendency to watch our first finger when we're doing shifts. First finger is always kind of our marker for where we are on the neck. And it's also the finger with the most dexterity and control. So we tend to worry about what position it's in first. But especially whenever you're going from this like F note here to the G note that you need for the C arpeggio, you should be putting all of your focus and attention to getting this guy where he needs to be first. You have a split second to get everybody else in place, as long as that guy lands in his position first. That's a definite lifesaver whenever you're tackling the Tornado Souls arpeggios too, so put it into use there as well. So there you go, guys. A great thing to practice if you're trying to work your way up to Marty's legendary Tornado of Soul solo. It's got all the techniques and everything that you need to practice on to make that doable. So really spend your time with those guitar profiles, the practice tracks, the tab, everything I'm providing over there on the Patreon page. It's going to help you get it up to speed in no time. Especially follow that picking notation. I swear this is the most important thing. Do the Marty style double downstroke thing. I'm going to say like 95% of the time, whenever somebody's struggling with that section, once they correct the picking, they get it like that. It's so much better to attack this stuff with Marty's technique set than just doing whatever you're conventionally comfortable with. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks for the suggestion that led to this video. Be sure to keep them coming down there in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, do all that cool stuff that helps keep this channel running. And let me know what you guys like to see featured on the next installment of Weekend Wing Shop. Now get away from the computer and go do some shredding. Less clicking, more picking.